Welcome back, guys. I'm here in Morocco for an epic adventure with Ducati. I find myself with the brand new DUCATI Desert X Rally for 2024. They wanted to make an evolution thought primarily for adventure riders, those real adventure riders that use the bikes off-road. And this comes after 2 years the launch of the Desert X, because it was launched on the market in 2022, but the concept was presented at the EICMA trade show in 2019. And you know, speaking with Ducati, it was almost like a joke, or I better say, it was a gamble. They presented this concept with no clear view of them wanting then to produce the bike, but then the bike had such an epic success that they went into developing it properly and presenting it 2 years ago. Now we finally get the rally version, and that makes us adventure riders smile. First of all, I'll tell you which are the differences, because the Ducati Desert X Rally has the same engine, the same chassis, but the upgrades are really important. And I know a lot of you saw on internet and thought, the price is crazy, but stay tuned with me, watch all the video, because I'll tell you, this price for this bike is actually almost cheap if we compare it to other brands. But let me start with which are the main differences. First of all, we have now a Kayaba 48mm forks and brand new triple clamps. This has an added travel, because now we have a travel of 250mm, so 20mm more than the standard Desert X. Furthermore, these forks are not your usual forks, because they have the Kashima coat and the LC coat, which is a special type of coating made so that the friction is absolutely reduced at its maximum, so that it can really work well. And on the rear also we find now a 46mm rear shock from Kayaba. On both suspensions we can adjust the compression, the rebound. The front fork is a closed cartridge fork. The rear shock has also here the preload adjuster, so we can intervene on the preload, but also we can adjust the high and low speeds. Also, the rear shock has an increased travel of 20mm, so now we have 240mm of travel. You can see then this seat, this was already sold as an optional for the Desert X. On the rally version, it's standard with the bike. Then there are many interesting upgrades that really make me fall in love with this bike, because it has certain features that we usually find on factory race bikes. And these are, for example, we have billet aluminum rear brake lever. We always have the possibility to have 2 different height adjustments for the brake lever. Same goes with the gear lever, but also the handlebar mount, you can see, is all CNC machined with also an all-in steering damper. And if you think CNC machining this whole mount means they had to use a really big block of aluminium to machine that. Same goes with a very important feature that I don't know why most brands put shitty bars for our GPS and our smartphones and tablets that wobble all the way around. For the rally version, Ducati made also here a CNC machine plus welded bracket, and this is much more sturdy. It doesn't vibrate, and I actually used it. You'll see here in the video the shots I made of myself riding. I placed the GoPro there and you can see how stable it was. So I managed to test this new crossbar to mount your devices. Other interesting features come from the graphics. You can see that now we have a totally different graphic design. Most interesting is that they are made in crystal. So this is the same material I use when I do bike builds and I do custom bike graphics. So it's a very thick material. It's printed on a sheet and then it's laminated with a protection that can be usually either matte or gloss, in this case gloss. But why is this feature cool? Because this actually prevents scratches, or really helps you not get your panels and your tank scratched, but also they're easily replaceable compared to when they are embossed, they're engraved like in the tank. You can't remove them, and sometimes even applying stickers, you can't really cover them up. In this case, we can remove them easily, change them and do our custom graphic. Even though I personally like this graphic, it reminds me a lot of the sort of MotoGP style, so racing style. But sure, we can add more protection if we go to cover more areas. Obviously, like every rally bike nowadays, we have a high front fender. This high front fender is interchangeable, because I know that it could not be liked by everyone. It's something very subjective. Some people really liked it, some others didn't really like it. But if you want to swap and put the standard DesertX low fender, you can do it. And maybe I could even think about developing a special low fender in carbon fiber or fiberglass. Surely one very sexy feature is this bash plate in forged carbon, so it's lighter but stronger. Now that you're here, I can also show you that now we have an added clearance from the ground. Now we have 280 millimeters of clearance, meaning we can really go in harsh environments, always keeping in mind this is a 211 kilogram bike, so you can't do extreme enduro. But having this clearance for me is very important, especially when you're here in Morocco and you find roads where are interrupted by wets. We won't clash against the bash plate. For our test, we have also these crash bars. They're not OEM on the rally version, but knowing that it was now the group of Italians coming and we really like to push hard and sometimes risk a bit too much, Ducati decided to put them on for our test. Then we have the new wheels with the CNC machined hub and new spokes, and also the Exalta Casago rims. On the front we have a 21 inch and 2.15 inch of width of the rim, and on the rear we have 18 inch with 4 inches of width, meaning we can put many more adventure style and off-road tires on this rim. But now let's move on to which were my personal impression in these 2 days where we even camped in the desert, and it reminded me of my Dakar days, even though I'll be back next year at Dakar Malemoto. But this is another story. The first impressions were actually not so positive, because as soon as I got on the bike, I'm like, this is a 24 and something thousand euro bike, and I sit down and the fork, I feel it and it's like, it's way too soft. Like, I will go to the end of the travel so easy, and I was expecting a bit better suspensions. But this was just the first impression from the parking lot. As soon as we then started riding and we put in kilometers, I realized that the first part of the suspension is really super soft. It always stays nice on the ground, and every bump it absorbs it. But at one point I really wanted to test how it does if I want to push hard, thinking at the beginning I would end up maybe crashing. Instead, I was impressed. Because seriously, of all the adventure bikes I tested, I have never tested a bike with suspensions of this level. What do I mean? Like, these feel like factory suspensions. And personally, having developed bikes for manufacturers and having dealt, with factory teams and so on, I can tell you the performance of this fork is what everyone desires. Something extremely soft at the beginning that can absorb everything and that is comfortable to ride, and then that dampens and absorbs really the big hits. And we also did jumps. We really tried pushing hard. As you see from the onboard video, I was overtaking every journalist, and in a group of Italians, it's all riders that race national championships. So I can tell you the bike was very precise. It gave me a good feeling, especially here in Morocco. It's very pointy rocks, very slippery, but I could always maneuver the bike as I wished. And speaking of weight, once you're riding it, it doesn't really feel like a 211 kilogram bike. It feels much more agile, even though I must say something that I couldn't really find the perfect feeling was I rode this bike a lot standing up. It pushes you to ride standing up. The only problem, I couldn't really understand where to position my legs when I was standing up. So when I would really want to hold it tight, it's like it doesn't have like other bikes, you know, an area with a sort of shape that brings your legs to put yourself in that place. And this can be a positive and a negative. It depends. It's a very subjective thing, because on the good side here you can move and really use all the space. On the other hand, if you're used to racing and riding bikes where you have sort of a fixed position for your legs when you're standing up, it can take some time to get the perfect feeling with the Desert X Rally. Other thing, the tank, it's a 21-liter tank. I didn't feel it being wide. The feeling was really positive. It felt nice and slim. When riding on very fast, hard surface sections, the steering damper helps a lot. I changed slightly the adjustment. I made it a bit harder because I prefer it like this. We then went in some sort of canyons with soft ground, and there I must say I would have wished for a more aggressive tire. So the bike comes out of the dealership with the Pirelli Scorpion Rally STR, which is a more dual version, road version. Here we went with the Scorpion Rally, that's more aggressive, but on the front end, in the soft sections, I felt it was a bit understeering, but due to the design of the tire, having had maybe a more aggressive tire, you know, like a rally tire, I think the feeling would have been much better. Now I'll tell you the second best part of this bike, other than the suspensions, which when you're riding it, you're having an orgasm. Seriously, it's, if you have the chance to test ride it, go and do it. If you have a local dealership that maybe you will have a demo bike, try it, because I'm sure you'll tell me in the comments the same feeling that I had. But the other marvelous aspect of this bike is the electronics. Usually I hate electronics. It's like, it make me vomit, you know, having ABS, having traction control, like that is for pussies, you know. But on this bike, the approach is totally different of the development of these assistance modules, if we want to call them like that. We have the different maps, ECU maps, and when we go in the rally and enduro map, the helps are not designed and thought to block you from skidding the bike, or, you know, for like safety, if we want to call it like that, but they are developed and thought to improve your performance. And that, I think, is something that shows, even like in MotoGP, why Ducati is winning, because their approach to electronics is very different from other manufacturers. You take other manufacturers, they're focused on safety, but the problem is not every rider is focused on safety. Actually, most adventure riders is focused more on performance, and you want to be able to have fun with this bike. You want to skid, but clearly a 900cc bike with 111 horsepower, it's hard to handle, so it can be overwhelming, you know, when you get on it and try to do stuff. But with the rally mode, I downshifted the traction that goes to 2 to 1. And I also tried without traction control. Seriously, you know, I couldn't ride the bike without traction control. It was a bit too aggressive for me. The power delivery was very, very sharp. And if you wanted to skid, I always felt, fuck, I'm gonna crash or something. When I put it to 1, it was helping me. Like, seriously, it was letting me skid, but with a nice flow. I would never, you know, get that sort of high side feeling. Then if you go on the road and you want safety, you put the road map, and that's okay, because I can understand no one races on the road. But when we are off-road with friends and we want to push, we want something that helps us go faster than the guy in front, not something that limits us. And I think this is one of the most interesting aspects of the Desert X Rally. I'm getting ready now to go home with a big smile on my face and hoping that I can convince maybe Ducati to lend me, borrow me one of these new bikes to do some adventure riding event, because I would be really curious of putting a more aggressive front tire and experience it in an event where clearly with a bike like this there's not much maintenance you have to do, and that's something I like since I always have to work on bikes. I won't spend any words on the brakes. They're the Brembo Stylema, super solid, very modular. If it were me, I would remove one disc on the front because it brakes really hard, never blocks the wheels because the ABS, I always had it at one, but I think with one disc it would work better. Now we get to the conclusion, and does this bike really value more than 24,000 euros? Well, first I want to bring into context the adventure market segment. If we look at all its competitors, nowadays there's only one or two bikes that are below the 15,000 euro mark. Most of them are more or less on the 15,000 euro mark, but you have no optionals. You don't have these prestigious accessories, you know, like all the CNC machine parts, the forged carbon bash plate. Only that, if you had to purchase it aftermarket, it would be almost 1,000 euros or even more. But the real game changer is the suspensions. If you want factory suspensions from Kayaba for any other adventure bike, you're looking at minimum 6,000 euros front and rear combined. Plus then you have the triple clamps, the CNC machine triple clamps, and only that cost already brings, let's say, a 15,000 euro bike already to 21. But then you have the wheels with CNC machine hubs. How much does a set of wheels cost for an adventure bike? You're looking on average under 2,000 euros. Then, as I already mentioned, all the CNC machine parts. You have also the steering damper, the rally seat. In my opinion, the bike is priced correctly and it's not that much for what you're getting. So when you're choosing which bike to buy, I think a lot of people make the mistake of just looking at the cheapest I can get. But in reality, the cheapest doesn't mean you have the best quality performance ratio price compared to bikes like this, where in my opinion the quality price performance ratio is really on point. Well, now let me know in the comments what is your opinion on this bike, what you like, what you don't like of the Ducati. For example, many people said they don't like the high front fender for its design, even though from a functionality point of view, very wide. It's wider than other high front fenders, meaning this gives more protection to splashes and to mud. I know this is something subjective, some will like it, some will not, but let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you with the next test. Ciao!